we go. The real democracy, as I said, drawing on Habermas, focuses on rational public conversation. But what you find in the main is that what is going on is like tribesmen warring one against the other on emotional tracks, away from what adds value to how society makes the better choices. So let's kind of like move on and look at this problem from original thinking from the Greeks. Now, from the Greek Enlightenment, if you don't mind my using those words to look at that era, there was a tendency to categorize people in a society. At the bottom rung are the people that basically they refer to as idiots. Now, if you think of how we use the word idiot today as an insult, it doesn't translate directly to how they used it. But these are people who are concerned only about themselves. They think of the interests of nobody else, just me, myself, and I. And these people are considered by the Greeks as idiots. A step above them are the tribesmen, the people who, think in terms of shared, if you will, parochial identity, blood relations, those kinds of people. And for these tribesmen, anybody outside of their parochial network is almost an enemy that has to be fought. And so you will see that significantly in today's world, we live in a world of tribesmen, whereas where society really makes true progress is where you are at the next level of the citizen. And that speaks to the subject that you have asked me to address, citizenship. What is this citizenship that we seek to attain? It's really about ability to recognize our shared humanity, ability to act in the interest of all, to advance the common good of all, and to participate in the process of determining how choices are made that advance that common good of all. Of course, from out of the citizenship cadre are drawn the leaders who, for those Greeks, are truly philosopher kings, people who have wisdom and apply that wisdom in advance of the common good of all. So let's kind of move on. If this is what we're looking for, what went wrong in Nigeria? Why is there such limited citizenship in Nigeria? Well, I borrow from the title of a book on aging. The sky gets dark slowly. Saying that the sky got dark quickly in Nigeria because of what I like to refer to as the dangerous alchemy of the convergence of soldiers and oil. Now, when soldiers, who essentially are people in a command control system that centralize everything, come to power, now you're going to find that the process of governing is based on a lot of things that will amaze you. When the army came to power, the first Nigerian head of state, after they stopped the coup plotters, became General Aguiyi Ironsi. Responding to the natural ways of the military, he wanted a unitary kind of government. He got a pushback on that, and that led to the counter coup in which he and many others were killed. But what followed since and what existed throughout military rule was a deepening of unitary rule in Nigeria. Now, when a general at the center, who is head of state, sends out some colonel to go and be a state governor, the colonel cannot talk back to the general. He just takes orders and to do A or B, and he says, yes, sir. And that's an implication for the very nature of democracy. the culture of past military in many ways because they got institutionalized in a variety of taken away compared to his civilian
Okay, I think we just lost Prof Utomi. So please, could we just wait while we see if he joins back in? I think that was a break in network connectivity. But hope we've been enjoying the conversation so far. If you have, please just continue conversations in the chat box. We have 3 breakout sessions coming up. If you haven't registered for a breakout session, if you haven't indicated, please could you put the breakout sessions you'd like to attend beside your name so that we manually impute you into the system, into the breakout rooms after this session. We are hoping that Professor Utomi will um, sort of fix his network connectivity and join. So far, the conversation has been obviously very entertaining, and the history of Nigeria from his lenses have been really exciting to hear. So let's just hope that it joins back. Please, we have 3 breakout sessions: climate and environment, employment and education, and equity and inclusion. So we would love to see if you haven't already opted to join one of these sessions, and if you have, you could just put the session that you're interested in joining beside your name while we wait for Professor Patrick Utomi to join back in. Thank you very much. I can see Professor Utomi trying to join back. Um, I think the issue is still network. I would like to know what you think about the topic so far. So if you could write in the chat box, that would be great. Let's keep the conversations going, guys. Thank you. I can see conversations. You're glad to be part of this event. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here right now. If you're just joining, where we were having a keynote address by Professor Utomi before it was interrupted by a break in the network. So we're trying to get him back on the call. I've asked that you please keep up the conversation in the chat box. So please rename yourself. We have 3 breakout sessions that are going to be happening shortly. So it's employment and education, employment and the future of work, climate and environment, and equity and inclusion. We have an amazing lineup of moderators and panelists that are ready to take on these three topics. Interestingly, these three pillars are literally the pillars of global shaper community. That is what those are three impact areas. So all our projects, all our activities that we carry out are around these three key pillars, and they guide what we are doing. And we have Professor Utomi back. Welcome back. Welcome back, Professor.
Well, thank you.
You went off for a bit.
The internet was challenged, but for a long time, I heard everything you've been saying. I was watching you, I was hearing you, but from trying. So anyway.
Okay,
so please, what you could do, if I hope it does not.
Yes, we can hear you now. We're glad to have you back.
So can I continue?
Yes, please.
Oh, all right. So I was talking about what went wrong in Nigeria, and I was going to give an example from the 60s, something very critical. I celebrated economists in this country, Dr. Patrick, and we talked a lot about those early days. He was the first economic advisor to the Prime Minister of Nigeria. He told me a story about how Nigeria missed the steel age. The federal government, in the structure of the federal government, most of the development was subnational government driven. Industrialization in Nigeria, for example, came when the premier of Western region began an industrial estate. We all know today as the Ikeja industrial estate in Western region. And the premier of Eastern region responded with Aba and Port Harcourt, and premier responded with Kakuri in Kaduna. It was to be known as competitive communalism. Those who may be interested in the work of Robert Melton and Howard Wolpe on modernization in Nigeria. Now, when the federal government thought Nigeria should go into steel production and decided to locate a steel mill where there was a concentration of the endowments, iron ore, coal, and all of that, they came to announce this at a federal economic council meeting, which was made up of the premiers and the technical people, the economic advisor, PAMSEC, and co. Prime Minister Balewa, when he told the premiers that they would build a steel mill in one location in Nigeria, got a huge pushback, a storm from the premiers who said, no, you can't do that. This is a federal government. If you are going to have a steel mill, then you must have one in every region. And he said, look, you can't have one in every region. The endowments are in a particular region. They said no. They argued so much, it got so heated that Balewa asked the PAMSECs and the advisors to leave the room at a point. And the politicians argued for about an hour or more before they let them back in. When they then got back in, Balewa announced that federal government was going to build a steel mill in every region. And he thought that was not likely. He looked up at Balewa. He said, Balewa looked away. And after the meeting, he was walking towards the Prime Minister. And Prime Minister said to him, Dr. Akibo, the powerful premiers have said their say, we will have our way. He said, Mr. Prime Minister, what will be our way? And Balewa said, we will do nothing. And so the federal government decided to do nothing about steel production. And Nigeria missed that window until much later, of course, when oil boom came, there was plenty of money. The military were in power. They decided that we're going to build a huge steel complex when there was a global oil glut. But that's a story for another time and goes on and on. But that was the nature of the contestation in a democratic order, which a military governor could not challenge his boss with. And this led to what I like to call an eclipse of citizen democracy, beyond the fact that soldiers physically had banned voting and all of that. The citizen engagement was really a function of the structure of military rule, this alchemy I talked about. So when this happened, something else also happened in Nigeria. The intellectual has what the great American political scientist and writer on the subject of leadership, James McGregor Barnes, calls moral authority. The intellectual, by the nature of his exposure and learning and all of that, has a certain kind of authority, that is a moral authority to say this is. The military in Nigeria found, after civil rule was outlawed, that the real opposition they had was from this this moral authority of the intellectual. And the military went against the intellectual community. One of the first major examples was the University of Lagos, about 1973 or so. The lecturers went on a strike against something, and the military gave them 7 days to move out of their official residence in the university. Of course, this was not the kind of thing that most of them had an alternative to deal with, and they began to quit. Well, they backed up on their demands, but that said to them, look, this engagement is not. One by one, Nigeria's finest academics then began to leave the country, and the country is still paying for it till date. But let them move on to the next slide. And the eclipse of rational public conversation flowed from that whole thing. We had if a time in Nigeria's seasons, when the new Nigerian newspapers in Kaduna, I don't know that it still exists, but it was a government-owned newspaper, was a hotbed of intelligent public conversation dominated by lecturers at Ahmadu Bello University. Same thing for the newspapers in Lagos, dominated by those that the northern political class used to refer to as the Lagos-Ibadan press axis. And that really shaped public conversation. The intellectuals were also very close to power. Most of Nigeria's political leaders in the 50s and 60s had some famous academics close to them all the time. Awo, for example, was famous for Professor Aluko, the great economist, and so on and so forth. And this has changed significantly following military rule. Today, political class in Nigeria are particularly famous for being anti-intellectual. Instead of the kind of people that you saw around the Awos and the Zigs, who were mainly intellectuals, today you see more like pimps around power. And this fundamental shift has affected the nature of public conversation in Nigeria. It was a time when student activism defined our country. I don't have the time to go through all of them, but I was one of those student activists. One of my favorite stories being that I did not realize it was my birthday, my 18th birthday, until 8:30 p.m. on the day of that birthday, because I was involved in protests that started from the day before. And the only time I realized it was my birthday was when somebody was giving a speech and said, today, February 6th, 1974, will be remembered. And I said, oh my God, it's my birthday. So this is the kind of generation of involvement of students. Today's grandfathers like Elder Felix Ohiwere were arrested protesting the Anglo-Nigeria Defense Pact at the dawn of independence at the University of Ibadan. So that tradition has gone on. So also has been a tradition of following newspaper editors. In the 60s in this country, in the 70s in this country, the superstars were the newspaper editors. Editor of Sunday Times, who would sell more than 1 million copies on a hot news day, running what was the highest circulating newspaper on the continent of Africa, was a megastar. People listening to books editors, if you walked in, you won't recognize them, of most of the newspapers that we have. That is a statement about the nature of public conversation in our country. In those days, the vendor stand, newspaper stand, was a remarkable gathering place. Those who could not afford to buy newspapers gathered around to read. They're called Free Readers Association. And then they will start their own conversations and arguments about issues in the country right there in the vendor stand. And we had public debates. I participated in one of the most heated in our country when we had to decide whether or not to take a loan from the IMF. It was such an amazing thing that taxi drivers followed the live television debate, because the day after the debates at the hotel, there were only a couple of us who had the courage to say the structure of Nigerian economy needed to be addressed. I was trying to get in a taxi the day after, and the taxi driver said, "Look at this one, Alakori Lushi. He wants IMF loan. Lower taxi." So this is an era in our country's life that, is critical for understanding the meaning of what is a democracy. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so right. Now, today, the way that we define democracy is pathetic in some ways, because when many of you decide to get active in political life, you'll be shocked what your peers, your own peers, as well educated as you are, will ask of you. They will ask of you if you are able to kill a person in the name of winning an election. They will ask of you, are you able to pull your shirt or your blouse in the marketplace and fight? They'll ask of you if you are able to swear on the Quran or the Bible, knowing that you are telling a lie. And if you say, I can't do any of those, they'll say to you, my friend, get out of here. Why do you want to contest public office? This is a denigration of what democracy really means. But that is how we have come to define it in Nigeria today, even from some of the well-educated. I mean, I wrote a book about this last year. It was titled, Why Not? Why not participate? It's about crippling fascism in Nigeria, state capture, and the criminal hijack of politics in Nigeria. But anyway, let's move on. So why does it matter that we have a citizen democracy? Why do we need a citizen democracy? Well, we need a citizen democracy because most of the things that are problems that we deal with today could have been avoided if we had rational public conversation of citizens a few years earlier. And I can give you a few short examples of conversations that I participated in many cases led, that foretold all of the things that are happening today in Nigeria. I said on a certain television program not long ago that 20-something years ago, my friend Nasir El-Rufai and I were on a set of Patito's Gang, and we're trying to record. And I said to him, I fear for the North. I said, look, if a 9-year-old does not get an education, and in the name of being an almajiri, he goes begging, takes the what he gets back to the teacher, the malam, and then off the proceeds of his begging, he gets some food to eat and sleeps under a tree. That man, that young person is going to be a man. When he's 40, he won't be able to go begging for a meal. And he will have no skills. And being a human being who has to eat, he is most likely to pick up a gun and kill somebody to take their thing. I said this 30 years ago, I said it 20 years ago, I said this 10 years ago. In 1999, an American called Robert Kaplan published a book, The Coming Anarchy. And I said, in looking at that book, that Nigeria's future was being predicted. And I tried to circulate the book, even tried to start an NGO or a social group that we called Nigerians United to Resist Anarchy. But what have we seen? The predictions in that book have literally come together. It literally suggested that just in Nigeria, was a point where there will be a convergence of cleavages, ethnic, religious, economic, and that West Africa could begin to descend into anarchy from there. Had we good public conversation and had policy responded to ideas flowing from such conversation, we will not be where we are today when the big men of Nigeria cannot drive from Kaduna to Abuja, but go and take cover inside a train, which is now being threatened by those same people. The issue of diversification of base of Nigerian economy away from what is often referred to as the monocultural dependence on crude oil. I mean, I can go back 30 years and show you opinion pieces I wrote about that. And every year it was part of a budget speech, but we did nothing about it because we didn't have civil society in conversation that could put pressure on government to really do something. It was too easy to collect oil revenues and, well, do what we know how to do best, share. And today, we live in a time when Total, as a company, can say to its shareholders that it is writing down its crude oil assets in Canada to zero 18 and a half years from now. Because in their projection, 18 and a half years from now, the oil age will be over as we know it. Crude reserves will literally be of limited economic value. So, is this a great discovery? No. If you go and read the things I wrote 20, 30 years ago, you will see that I don't have enough time to talk about some of the early articles I wrote during the Iranian Revolution about this possibility coming. The mindset between producing and sharing wealth. All the fight about restructuring in Nigeria is about how much more you're going to get, you share. But we know that through history, how much revenues you get have never made you rich. What makes you rich is the ability to produce. We know the example of Spain, with all the money is made in Latin America by the conquistadores, compared to the low countries, Belgium, Netherlands, and co., who invested in their youth, and their youth could produce. And how one generation, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations later, we see Spain poor and those countries rich. Even issues about the nature of the budget process. I have for more than 25 years argued in this country that revenues coming from crude oil should not all go into the distributable pool fund, the so-called FAC account, that a portion should be saved as a future fund. Another portion should be essentially held back in case there is an emergency and you need to smoothen the budget process. You can draw on that saving to ensure that because oil prices fell to much lower, your budgets won't crash. You will maintain it at a certain level, and then the part that will go to the usual sharing. But we resisted all these kinds of thoughts, and today we're seeing the consequence for economic management in our country. So if this be just a few examples of how tomorrow has been shaped by thoughts that were available yesterday, why citizen democracy matters, I think, can be seen in today's challenges. The other question that you have to address in terms of the challenge of citizenship is the citizenship. And that's the middle class, the educated people, like many of you on this call. My book of last year, Why Not, was an attack primarily on this class, which I call the complicit middle. I mean, you can call the politicians names for all kinds of things, but the middle class are equally guilty because the choices that could have been made, they kept away from being involved because they wanted to stay in their comfort zones. And all of us are paying the price for it today. I think that the middle class chose in pursuit of what it thinks of self-interest, and therefore did not get involved. Well, why didn't they get involved? Well, there's a price to being a citizen, especially if there are too few of you who are trying to be citizens. It means that they can target you. And among the things that they've done successfully with many people, I mean, I am a living example of how much the system has tried, because I speak up, to get in the way of my interests. But I have deliberately chosen not to let that deter me. So when people look and see they can be isolated because of expressing themselves, they sometimes back away. And when they back away, the public space is left only to thugs and charlatans. And you get the kind of situation that we have managed, unfortunately, to find ourselves today. They attack your business interests. As an example, I like to give, I think many years ago, nearly 20 years or so ago, uh, a convention on business integrity was founded, and they went around trying to create um, a, a process where businessmen will publicly come out and declare, I will not give, I will not take, so that bribes will be given a bad name, and if there are no cooperators, corruption will reduce in the country. I was then a member of the Council of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Sojia Pampa, who was executive director of CBI, the Convention on Business Integrity, and a gentleman called Ibi Shofekun came to make a presentation to the council. When they finished, they were shocked at what businessmen of repute said to them. Look, don't come here and disturb us. Governments will call us their enemies if we refuse to give bribes. It was incredible. Only 3 of us, more than 40 chief executives of companies in the Lagos Chamber of Commerce sitting in that room, only 3 of us were willing to say, we will not give, we will not take. When several years ago, by the way, the vice president today, Professor Shibajo, was chairman of Convention on Business Integrity. When they honored a list of men, an extraordinary list of very old men, really as they were, Mr. Akintola Williams, Dr. Michael Omolayole, Dr. Christopher Kolade, and so on. I was included in the list, and Jebi, as we call him, Professor Shibanjo, said to me, oh boy, everybody else on this list is nearly twice as old as you are. And we laughed about it. And I never knew why I was nominated. If I was very recently that I realized that it was that moment in the Chamber of Commerce that Dr. Kolade and I, and in our late Surveyor Kukoyi, we are the only people willing to say we will not give, we will not take. Which was why we were in that, I was in that honor role of the Convention of Business Integrity. So what you find, unfortunately, also that deters people is that you have very little commitment to public good initiatives. The complicit middle, not only not acting, also doesn't even show generosity towards such issues. I was talking with a young lady who has run Enough is Enough for many years. This is their 10th anniversary. And Mr. Demolekun said that in these 10 years, you could count on the fingers of one hand how many people have supported Enough is Enough. And that's part of a tragedy of our reality. So what are you then imagine, or what you see happening is a mocking of people who stand up to be citizens as kind of peculiar, kind of outliers, if not just foolish. So it's understandable that many people, therefore, are citizens who really say, who want to be citizens, and because there's a bigger bunch rather than a broomstick, we can make things happen. Today, the active citizen is a misnomer. He just stands out. Citizens, I think, need to be really, truly engaged. We have also another big challenge for citizenship in our country, in that the intellectual used to be the fore of citizenship. But you can have the intellectual as somebody who is locked away in his ivory tower, or you can have the intellectual who is the engaged man, l'homme engagé. I think that part of what has happened to our society is that the intellectual class has retreated from this place. So citizenship is now seen as, oh, an active passive. Ordinarily, there should be nothing like that. A citizen should always be active. The word citizen means that you're an active person. If you are not active, then you're not a citizen. It's an oxymoron to talk about a not active citizen, even if you can separate the intellectual as one in the ivory tower of his contemplation, who lives in his solitude and produces products of knowledge. But you have to deal with citizenship as one that actively advances the good of society. Citizens, where they are truly citizens, become marketing officers, public relations officers for the product that is their country. And I would dare say that if we had really truly active citizens, Nigeria would be a product that is attractive, that will be a destination for investment. You will find partners easily that you can work with. So if we're going to close this conversation by looking at the transforming possibilities that come with citizenship, we've got to recognize first and foremost that there is such a concept, such an idea as national character. And that when you have a national character that is positive, then transaction costs for business become lower and economic growth will take place because you are more competitive. If citizens own their national dream, then it's easier for them to help walk the path of a perspective plan. I mean, the case of Korea, South Korea, and perspective planning is truly one to look at when you want to see how engaged citizens make for the development of a country. So what I would like to urge all of you is to recognize that you have a place in Nigeria's growth, a place in the transforming of Nigeria into the dream that you all express. I believe that it can happen when you are active as citizens. If we can make citizens, if we can breed transforming leaders and engage transformational initiatives, the future can be assured. And I tell you, Nigeria will rise up again. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Utomi. Thank you very, very much. Your speech has been so astounding and amazing. Hearing you talk about the history of Nigeria and your takes and your fight has been really, really astonishing. We hope, as you call the middle class right now.
The complicit middle.
Complicit middle, yes. We hope as the complicit middle that we take the baton from you, not just taking the baton, we do more. We are more active. You are very correct in saying that there's nothing as a non-active citizen. Yeah, you are very correct. And we as the global shapers, we try in our fields and in our endeavor to really push for civic engagement, for discussions and dialogue that will show us the way to go. For instance, I think about last month when there was a call for the constitutional review of the 1999 constitution, we as a group, we took it upon ourselves to review the constitution and we submitted what we would like to be amended in terms of our pillars. So we are working towards that. That is just we're trying to push the dial and we'll continue pushing this dial. Thank you very much, sir, for your speech. It was
It's a
really
great pleasure.
sir?
It's a great pleasure.
So,
Okay.
any
Am I
last
holding
word?
on for any Q&A, or am I free to go?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. We really appreciated having you on this call.
Okay.
We're glad to have you. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Okay, man.
So, how is everyone doing? We just had a really amazing keynote from Professor Utomi. We've rounded that up now, and the next thing on our agenda is to take you into the breakout sessions. Um, we have 3 breakout sessions: environment and sustainability. That breakout session is going to be speaking on how we can mobilize the youth to scale sustainability projects. That's going to be moderated by Miles. If you're interested in that breakout session, that's number 2. So either rename yourself to number 2 or environment and sustainability. The next panel session on our list is equity and inclusion. So that is gender equality and inclusion. The question we are going to be trying to answer rather and solve in that breakout session is why are inclusion and equality important for nation building? We have an amazing lineup of guests on this panel. We have Christiana, a Lagos shaper and the co-lead for equity and inclusion, leading that panel. We have Abosede George Ogan, the co-founder of Electa, on that panel as well. We have Najib Idris, a global shaper from the Kano Hub, on that panel. So please, and we have Amanda Obidike. She's the co-founder of STEM Africa, and she's the founding curator of the Ozubulu Global Shapers. So if you're interested in joining that panel session, please write equity and inclusion on your, rename yourself, please. And we'll start adding people soon to the breakout sessions. The third one is education and employment and the future of work. The question we're trying to answer in that panel session is, how do we build a workforce that can participate in the global economy? What does education and employment mean to us right now as a nation? We're facing a pandemic, we're facing so many digital divides, and our curriculum is really needs an upscaling and an upturning. So we really want to get in these breakout rooms, distill this conversation, drill it down. So please, if you haven't already indicated, please indicate a breakout session you'd like to join. For ease of adding to breakout sessions, please, if you could rename yourself, just put, so my name is April. If you could put April equity and inclusion or April climate beside your name. Yes, BC would share the recording with you guys if you're interested in rewatching. Yeah, so please put it in the comments. I also have a colleague here that is helping rename people if you're interested in that. So if you're interested in staying behind, should I call out the sessions again? Climate and environment. We're asking, how can we mobilize the youth to scale sustainability projects? Gender equality and inclusion. Why are inclusion and equity important for nation building? And the third one is education and employment and the future of work. How do we build a workforce that can participate in the global economy? So if you're interested in staying for these breakout sessions, we'll be sending people shortly to these breakout sessions. So please let me know. Yes, I can see more people. So please just give us a couple of minutes. We'll start soon. Our panelists are pumped up and they're waiting for us right now. They're already in the breakout rooms. We'll be sending people to the breakout rooms shortly. Please give us a couple of minutes. Great. I can see a couple of people haven't selected their breakout rooms yet. Please, if you haven't done so, please do so. Thank you. Great. So sending everyone to their breakout rooms now.
You're going to see a pop-up telling you to join a breakout
Yes.
room, and
Yes.
if you not, just comment the breakout. I will rename, and April will tell you.
Fab. Daniel, there's still quite a number of people that haven't indicated.
Yes, so I'm still adding some of them. You can also do it yourself. Just tap your name, go to participants, tap your name, and click rename, and boom, you're in. So Thelma is on employment. So Thelma is name. Too. So if you can do that, just drop it in the comment section and you'll be renamed. If you don't know what breakouts are you interested in, just put it in the comments. I see somebody renamed as one. I guess that's employment. Isn't it what breakouts are you interested in? Mobalaji, Lokman, Fair. Just kindly rename yourself or put it in the chat box. Okay, Mobalaji says one. So give me a second. Mobalaji employment, and boom, you're in. April will send you in shortly. All right, let's keep coming. I have Izine employment. You've been renamed. April will send you in. All right, let's keep coming, guys. We have Biodun Watts, Adibola Folashade, Fair Gender, fantastic. You will be in the next 20 seconds. Boom. I'm just gonna add you in now. Let's keep coming, guys. The breakout room has started. And please, if you join the breakout room, kindly turn off your video and your audio just for the what's it called now? Panelists to speak. Asandan Tata, Lukman, Toka, Rachel. Kindly rename yourself or just indicate the breakout session you're interested in the comment section, and I will rename you and my colleague April would put you in. I've requested the breakout rooms again and comment section for you to see. Babajide, Faith, Zainab, Wumi, Tolope. All right, so Tabella's indicated. So you will be added in 5.
There are about 17 people. Okay, 16 now.
All right.
15.
All right. Igbala is good to go. Mr. Samuel, employment. You will be in 5.
Where would you like to go?
All right, so employment in another. Rachel. Rachel says employment. All right, she's in. So that's a gender. So let me rename that to gender in a second. Gender. All right, so left. You're gonna see pop-up to join your breakout. Just follow the pop-up, the prompt, and you'll be in.
So also, I'm just going to Daniel.
Yes, please.
Soon I'm going to leave to just check how the breakout sessions are doing. In case you were trying to look for me, I'm just going to go.
All right, just prompt me when you're about going, so I can just manage.
Everyone, there are 10 people now, and they haven't indicated. Someone just joined.
Okay, I guess maybe probably dropped their phone somewhere. Can you confirm is
joining? Zainab said gender and equity, so I'm sending you there.
When you're raising your hand, you have any questions, you can use the chat section.
Yeah, Wumi, if you have any question, please. If you're just joining, we're already going into the breakout rooms. Actually, let me
replace the breakout again.